They call me Diamond. That was my street name given to me by my first pimp. The name was pretty, polished, sexualized, and fake, just like the lie I was living while working on the streets of Detroit. I was on Linwood and Claremont almost every night, selling my body just to make it to the next sunrise. But my real name is April, and this is the story of how I stopped surviving and started living. I wasn't born into darkness. I was a little girl from the east side of Detroit who used to dance barefoot in the living room while my mama clapped along. I had dreams. I had light in my eyes. Then my father disappeared before I turned 7, and my mama got sick when I was 15. Cancer took her fast. Within a year, I was an orphan, alone, angry, broken. I bounced around from relative to relative until the rejection became unbearable. I ran toward anything that felt like love, even if it came with chains. That's when I met him, the first man to ever really claim me. He went by the street name Mr. Daddy. That's what he required me to call him. Never gave me his real name, just an image and a leash. He told me he'd take care of me. Instead, he taught me how to be a whore. His words, not mine. He trained me how to walk, how to flirt, how to upsell my body like I was merchandise. He didn't hit me at first. He groomed me with flattery and gifts. But the moment I hesitated or tried to say no, he reminded me exactly who was in control. I was 16 when he put me on the street for the first time. I remember crying afterward. He slapped me and said, "Cry later, bring my money now." And I did. I brought him every dollar, every wound, every piece of myself I hadn't already lost. Over the years, I worked under other pimps, all different faces, same cruelty. Some were quiet manipulators, others were monsters in human skin. I got beaten for being short, starved for asking questions, burned with cigarettes for trying to hide money. My body wasn't mine. My name wasn't mine. My freedom was just a memory. I spent 8 years in that life. 8 long years prostituting, dodging death, running from cops, faking pleasure, and numbing pain. Sure, I made fast money. Some nights I pulled in hundreds, but it cost me everything: my self-worth, my health, my peace. I've had guns shoved in my mouth by Johns who didn't want to pay. I've been choked, slapped, left unconscious, and dumped behind dumpsters like trash. Some men recorded me without my consent. Others tried to steal my soul with their cruelty. I miscarried alone in a motel bathroom once, blood and sorrow running down my legs while a man in the next room asked if I was ready for round 2. That's the kind of hell I lived through. I drank until I blacked out, took pills until I forgot my own name. I hated my reflection, hated the sound of my voice, hated God, until one night I almost died. A John drove me to a boarded-up building, pulled a knife, and told me I wasn't leaving alive. I fought with everything I had. I escaped barefoot, bleeding, praying for a miracle I didn't believe in. I made it to a gas station where a woman named Yolanda took one look at me and didn't see a whore. She saw a wounded soul. She fed me, clothed me, and gave me a number to the Grace Women's Shelter. I walked into that shelter at sunrise, half dead, but finally ready to try living. The staff welcomed me without judgment. Miss Rhonda, a former addict turned counselor, took me under her wing and said, "You've been through hell, but you don't have to stay there." Withdrawals ripped through me like fire. I shook, screamed, cried. But I stayed. I clung to hope like it was my last breath. 9 months in that shelter changed my life. I began journaling, going to therapy, and volunteering. I helped new girls settle in, girls just like I was, scared, ashamed, and lost. One day during a group class, someone played music. Without thinking, I danced. Wild, messy, unfiltered movement. Miss Rhonda watched and said, "That's where your healing is." She signed me up for a community dance class. I went, nervous, insecure, wearing old sweatpants and trauma. But when the music played, something inside me came alive. The instructor pulled me aside after class. He said, "You don't just dance, you testify." Dance became my language, my therapy, my prayer. I cleaned offices at night to survive, but I never missed a class. I trained hard, and eventually I earned a scholarship to a performing arts college. Healing wasn't perfect. Flashbacks haunted me. Nightmares clawed at my sleep, but I kept dancing, kept showing up for myself, one shaky step at a time. I started speaking publicly at shelters, schools, churches, sharing my story, raw and unfiltered. I was trafficked, abused, addicted, but I got out, and you can too. At 29, I launched Second Steps, a nonprofit for women trying to escape sex work. We provided shelter, therapy, job training, sisterhood. Some of those women now own businesses. Others went back to school. All of them started over. I returned to Linwood and Claremont, not as Diamond, but as April. We held a vigil for every girl who didn't make it. I read their names, lit candles, cried, prayed, remembered. I adopted a baby girl named Faith, the daughter of a woman in our program who lost her battle to addiction. That little girl gave me more purpose than I ever thought possible. She gave me family. I wrote a book called Dancing Through the Dirt. It became a bestseller, but more than that, it became a mirror for other women trapped in silence. It told them, "You are not alone." One day after speaking at a community event, a man named Robert introduced himself. Kind eyes, gentle voice. He didn't look at me like a charity case or a cautionary tale. He saw me. We became friends, then more. I told him everything, my past, my pain, the parts of me I thought no one could love. He looked me in the eyes and said, "You're not what you've been through. You're who you choose to be." We got married 2 years later, a small ceremony, tears, healing, redemption. Robert has been my partner, my protector, my peace. On my 35th birthday, I stood on stage at a Second Steps gala, wearing a red gown. The room was full. Survivors, supporters, social workers, and even some of the same cops who once arrested me. They all stood and applauded. I spoke from the heart. I spent 8 years selling my body. I made fast money, but the pain cost more than I ever earned. I was abused, discarded, forgotten, but I survived. I healed. I rose. Then I danced, barefoot, unapologetic, every movement a testimony of transformation. When it ended, I held Faith and Robert close and whispered, "This is the life they said I'd never have." Let me tell you something loud and clear. Your past doesn't have to define your future. You might have been labeled, beaten, used, or abandoned, but those things don't own you. They don't get to write your ending. You do. I am not Diamond. I am April, a survivor, not a victim, but a victor. I am free. I am loved. I am whole. And so can you be.